So in my last video, I talked about every NFL team's most disappointing player so far throughout the 2024 season. Today, we are going to be doing the opposite of that, and we're going to be talking about every NFL team's most surprising player so far. So these players are playing well, and maybe you didn't expect them to. And like always, let me know your favorite NFL team's most surprising player in the comments below. So we're going to start off with the Kansas City Chiefs, and I think so far this year, this team has been scraping by most of their wins, but they are still one of the top teams in the NFL record-wise. I think Kareem Hunt has been a pleasant surprise for them because they lost Isaiah Pacheco early in the year. And I think Kareem Hunt at his age and his mileage, even though he's 29, but that is old for a running back, has been a serviceable backup and then starter for Kansas City in the absence of Isaiah Pacheco. He had good games against Tampa Bay in that overtime win. He had a good game against the Saints. He had games where he had multiple touchdowns this year and has just been good for the Chiefs. 592 rushing yards, 5 touchdowns across 8 starts this year. He may not start another game with Isaiah Pacheco back into the fold, but I think you give a 2 thumbs up for Kareem Hunt, just helping you bridge the injury from Isaiah Pacheco to current day. So this player, maybe you guys expected to be good if you're a Chargers fan, or maybe you like Georgia, or you just love the NFL draft. But I think relative to his expectations in this offense under Jim Harbaugh has been great. And he just had a monster game against the Falcons. I want to talk about Ladd McConkey, the rookie for the LA Chargers. Yeah, McConkey has just skyrocketed into a wide receiver 1 for this Chargers team. He has 58 catches on the year, 815 yards, 4 receiving touchdowns. He just had a monster game in the air against the Falcons, where he had 12 targets for 9 catches, 117 yards. And this wide receiver class was headlined by Malik Neighbors, Marvin Harrison Jr., Brian Thomas Jr. But yeah, Ladd McConkey has been right up there as one of the best rookie receivers in the NFL, and it's looking like the Chargers found their wide receiver 1. So this is going to be a big rookie division here, because for the Las Vegas Raiders, this year has been another disappointing one for them, but Brock Bowers has been a pleasant surprise. Because you can make an argument Brock Bowers has been the best receiving rookie, including tight ends and receivers, and probably the best rookie overall for skill position players, maybe even the best rookie in general when you consider quarterbacks and everybody on the defensive side of the field. Bowers, throughout 12 games this year, 84 catches, 884 yards, and 4 touchdowns. That's with Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew, Desmond Ridder, all throwing him the ball. He's had multiple games this year where he had 10 plus receptions. He had a monster game against the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead, and it's looking like the Raiders found their number 1 target on this team. And a lot of people looked at the 13th overall picks of the Raiders here with some skepticism, because they drafted Michael Mayer last year and he had a productive rookie year. Well, Brock Bowers looks like an absolute home run of a pick for Vegas. And yeah, we are going to have 3 straight rookies, because you could talk about Cortland Sutton for the Denver Broncos, but I think Bo Nix has been exceeding all expectations this year. A lot of people were definitely not super high on Nix, especially as a first-round quarterback. Spent multiple years in college at Auburn and at Oregon. People thought he couldn't throw the ball downfield. Maybe he was only going to be a good quarterback in that Dan Lanning offense, but this year under Sean Payton, he has been a pleasant surprise. And the Broncos, people thought they were going to be the worst team in their division. They may make the playoffs. Nick so far has over 2,500 passing yards. He has over 15 touchdowns, and he has just been moving the ball downfield with not the best weapons in the world either. He's getting stuff out of Devon Vele. Cortland Sutton's arguably having the best year of his career with Jordan Humphries getting involved, Marvin Mims, Troy Franklin, Josh Reynolds. Not even a true running game either. I think Bo Nix has done a great job for Denver. So we're going to go over to the number 1 team in the NFC West, and that is the Seattle Seahawks. And we're going to talk about a former top 10 pick, Charles Cross. Cross was the 9th overall pick in the 2022 NFL draft. He has played every single game for the Seahawks this year, and he had some inconsistent play to his first 2 years in the NFL. He had a 63 PFF grade in 2022, 67 in 2023, and this year an 82 PFF grade. He has been great as a run blocker, as a pass blocker, and the Seattle Seahawks, who have not had a great offensive line over the last couple of years, desperately needed Charles Cross to break out, and he is doing so this year. He has been one of the best offensive linemen in the NFC West, and he just turned 24 years old, and having a blue chipper offensive tackle is huge for the Seattle Seahawks under Geno Smith and their eventual next quarterback down the line. So for the Arizona Cardinals, a surprising team overall this year. We thought they were going to have one of the worst defenses in the league, and it's not great, but I think a player that has been a nice surprise on their defensive side of the field was a 3rd round pick in the 2023 NFL draft, so he's going into year number 2, and that is Garrett Williams, the former Syracuse Orange, because I think Williams had an up and down rookie year in this league, but he has been a great coverage corner for the Cardinals, who have been exceeding expectations as a team overall on the defensive side of the field. In terms of point against, they are a top 15 team in the NFL. Garrett Williams has 2 interceptions on the year. He's played 11 out of the 12 games for the Cardinals this season, and it looks like Arizona found a foundational corner for them in the long term. This has been the season from hell for the San Francisco 49ers. They've had injuries to Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk is out for the year, George Kittle's been hurt, Deebo Samuel's been hurt. Everybody on this offensive side of the field has been banged up, but I think Juwan Jennings has been super reliable for them and has been their most surprising player. Jennings this year has been a great run blocker out there and also has been just a great receiver. 10 games, 50 catches, 684 yards, 4 touchdowns on the year. He had a monster game against the Rams earlier in the year. We had 11 catches for 175 yards and 3 touchdowns. And he was supposed to be their wide receiver 3 going into the year. And there was a scenario where he was going to end up being the wide receiver 4 since they drafted Ricky Pearsall in the first round in the 2024 NFL draft. But Jennings signed a 2-year contract extension with the 49ers, so he's going to be under team control till the end of next year's season as well. And with all these receivers in San Francisco, it's more likely that they'd probably move on from Ayuk or Deebo Samuel than Juwan Jennings right now. For the Los Angeles Rams, they've had a ton of injuries this year. Cooper Kupp's been hurt, Puka Nakuya's been hurt, the offensive line has been banged up, but somebody that a lot of people thought could maybe regress from his rookie season going into this year was Kyren Williams, but he's shown that he's one of the best running backs in the NFC. So far this year, through 12 games, Kyren has played every single game. He's got 222 carries for 926 yards on the ground, 10 touchdowns as well. He also has 2 receiving touchdowns. Maybe he's not the best pass blocker in the world as a running back, but I think getting downhill in this Los Angeles Rams offense, he has shown that he could be one of the best running backs in the league for a long time. And he was just a 5th round pick in that 2023 NFL draft. People thought maybe Blake Corum was going to eat a lot more into his snaps this year. That has not been the case. Kyren Williams has been a beast for the Rams. You could talk about a couple guys here for the Green Bay Packers, but I'm going to talk about somebody they paid a lot of money in the offseason for, Xavier McKinney, who I think has been way better than what they imagined when they gave him all that money in the 2024 free agency period. You can make an argument that Xavier McKinney has been the best safety in the NFL this year. He's lined up on the defensive line, in the box, as a slot corner, most notably though as a free safety, and he has just been one of the best coverage safeties in the NFL. He's the number 2 ranked safety overall by PFF, and he has 7 interceptions right now, which is leading the NFL. He did sign that massive 4-year, $67 million contract with the Packers in the offseason, and like I said, I'm sure the Packers thought he was going to be a good player. You don't give $67 million to somebody you don't think will, but he has been arguably the best safety in the NFL, which I think has exceeded a lot of expectations. Easy one here for the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, this team overall has been exceeding expectations, but the way Sam Darnold has been this year has led the Minnesota Vikings to a 10-2 record. How could you not pick him? Maybe Darnold is just a product of how good of a coach Kevin O'Connell is, but when JJ McCarthy went down and all the injuries and off the field concerns this team had, a lot of people, including me, thought the Vikings were going to be the worst team in the NFC North. And they've been up there with the Lions and the Packers as the best teams in the NFC North, but also in the NFL as a whole. Nobody expected the Vikings to be 10-2 after 12 games, and Darnold has 2,900 yards on the air, 23 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, and this is with TJ Hawkinson being banged up, Jordan Addison being banged up, and Sam Darnold earned himself a lot of money this year, and the Vikings are going to make the playoffs because, I mean, this has not been a fun year for the Chicago Bears. I think Caleb Williams is definitely going to be their franchise quarterback. They had a brutal loss because of Matt Eberflus on Thanksgiving. They fired him, and this defense this year has been up and down at times, but I think has been steady for the most part, and I think their most surprising player is on that side of the field, and it is Kevin Byard, who they ended up getting in free agency. Byard was traded from Tennessee to Philadelphia last year for a 5th round pick, and he was not good in Philadelphia whatsoever. He's getting up there in age. He was going to be 31 years old this year, so people thought this was going to be the beginning of the end for Kevin Byard in the NFL. But he has been one of the best safeties in the league this year, and he has been great for the Chicago Bears, as he's been great as a run defender and has been the 8th ranked safety out of 88 according to PFF in the NFL this season. And he signed a 2-year deal with Chicago, which people thought maybe they were just going to get out of after the first year if he inevitably played bad. It's been the opposite. It's looking like this is going to be a steal of a contract going into the 2nd year in the 2025 season. The Detroit Lions have been super fun to watch this year, especially in their secondary, and Kirby Joseph, I think, has been their most surprising player. He was a 3rd round pick in the 2022 NFL draft out of Illinois, and he had an up and down first 2 years in this league, but you definitely saw the potential on what he could be on this Detroit Lions defense. And this year, he has been graded out as the number 1 ranked safety in the NFL, according to PFF. He's got a 90 defensive grade, a 91 coverage grade, an 83 run defense grade overall, and he's also leading the NFL with 7 interceptions, tied with Xavier McKinney. So it's pretty cool that 2 safeties in the NFC North are tied for the most interceptions in the league. And with him, Carlton Davis, Brian Branch, this line secondary is going to be fun for years to come. For the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think this team has also been exceeding expectations this year. You could talk about Deshaun Elliott, Dante Jackson, a couple of guys in their secondary, but I gotta talk about Russell Wilson, who has turned this team's future around. Maybe it's not their long-term future, but this year, their peak is definitely a lot higher hire with Russell Wilson. We are seeing him be one of the best quarterbacks in the league since he took over as the team's starting QB job, as he just had one of the best games for the Pittsburgh Steelers as a quarterback since the Ben Roethlisberger era. He just threw for 414 yards and 3 touchdowns on the road and helped the team score 44 points in their win against the Cincinnati Bengals, a division rival. And through 6 games this year, he is 5-1 as the Steelers quarterback with wins against the Bengals, against the Ravens, against the Commanders. He has over 1,600 yards, 10 touchdowns to 3 interceptions. And with a good ground game, an improved O-line, and a good defense, the Steelers could actually win a playoff game for the first time since the 2016 season. For the Baltimore Ravens, it's going to be somebody on the defensive side of the field, and it's going to be Kyle Van Noy. This is Kyle Van Noy's second year with the Baltimore Ravens, and he was great for them last year. He was going to be 33 years old this year, but it looks like he hasn't lost a step either. He had 9 sacks as a whole last year. He's already up to 8 this year through 12 games. That puts him 13th in the NFL, and you're getting this out of somebody that really wasn't known for his sacks earlier in his career with New England, Miami, and Los Angeles. And out of 113 edge rushers graded out by PFF, he's the 23rd ranked one right now. And you could also give some love to Rashad Bateman. I know he just went down with an injury against the Philadelphia Eagles, but a lot of people thought he was a bust, and maybe he is for where he was drafted, but he's been good this year for Baltimore. Oh no, yeah, maybe if you thought Derrick Henry could have been washed, it would be him. This year has been a mess for the Cleveland Browns, but we're going to talk about their 4th round pick in the 2023 NFL draft, Isaiah McGuire. You could also give some love to Jameis Winston, but not really too much to talk about on the offensive side of the field for them. So I'm going to talk about Isaiah McGuire, who's been a good edge rusher for this team, as he has played 11 out of the team's 12 grades, and it looks night and day from what he was as a rookie last year into his sophomore year this year. And it's looking like the Browns found a nice edge rusher on day 3 in that 2023 NFL draft. For the Cincinnati Bengals, it's tough because this team has been very disappointing as a whole, especially on the defensive side of the field, but I'm going to talk about somebody on the offensive side of the field. It could be his last year in Cincinnati. I'm going to talk about T. Higgins. And I know it's been disappointing again for T. Higgins, as he has been banged up this year, as he's only appeared in 7 out of the team's 12 games. But in those 7 games, I feel like he's been the best he's been in his career. He has his highest PFF grade. He's got 43 catches, 558 yards, and 5 touchdowns. And that was after a very slow start, but he's been picking it up. He had a good game against the Steelers, Chargers, Browns, Giants, Ravens, and Panthers. And he's going to be, I think, an elite wide receiver 1 next year on whatever team he's on. Maybe the Bengals should have traded him last offseason. Maybe they weren't going to get an equal market value for him. I'm really interested to see what the Bengals do with T this offseason. Do they pay him or do they trade him? Another disappointing team here we're going to talk about, the Dallas Cowboys, as people thought they could have won the NFC East, but it's looking like they're going to finish at the bottom of that division, or at least right ahead of the Giants. That's not where you want to be. I'm going to talk about a rookie they drafted on day 2 in the 2024 NFL draft, DeMarvion Overshown. As I feel like this team has had so many injuries this year, Overshown has been a staple for this team. He's appeared in all 12 of their games. And I just feel like whenever I'm watching this Cowboys defense, he is always sticking out. He is flying all over the field. He's got 5 sacks on the year, 52 tackles, and he has just been a versatile linebacker. He shows up on the D-line, in the box, in the slot as a corner, and it's cool that he played at Texas. He's playing now in Texas for the Dallas Cowboys, and it looks like they found a stud with the 91st overall pick in last year's draft. Can't really talk too much positive stuff about the New York Giants, but I'm going to talk about Tyrone Tracy, who's been a very productive rookie running back for them. And he's no Saquon Barkley, but for basically a fraction of Saquon's value and dollar amount in this league, Tracy has been a not bad replacement for this team. It's also funny that his teammates call him Paul Pierce after an injury scare he had in training camp. I never knew that. And this year, through 12 games, he has 125 carries for 619 yards. He also has 4 touchdowns on the ground. And since he's taken over that starting role over Devin Singletary through 8 games, he's got 590 carries in those 8 games. He's a little bit older as a rookie, 25 years old, but I do think at least for the next few years, for a very cheap cost, since he was a day 3 pick, he's going to be a productive running back for his contract value for the New York Giants. I think this is an easy one here for the Washington Commanders. They are getting so much more than they expected out of Bobby Wagner, a 34-year-old. Bobby Wagner has been one of the best linebackers in the league this year. You could say he's been a top 3 linebacker. And like I said, he is 34 years old. He's been good in coverage, good as a run defender, a pass rusher. And this has been one of the best years of his career. And we are so far into it. He has shown up on multiple different sides of the defensive field. He's got 60 tackles. He's got 2 sacks. He's got a forced fumble on the year. And it's just been a super productive player for a Washington Commanders team that may make the playoffs. We're going to talk about another rookie here, but for the Philadelphia Eagles, it's not going to be Quinion Mitchell, because I thought he was going to be really good coming out of Toledo. It's going to be their round 2 pick. I don't know how he fell to round 2. Cooper DeJean. Yeah, Cooper DeJean has been so much fun to watch this year for the Philadelphia Eagles. He hasn't started all 12 games. He's only started 7 of them, but he has been a notable impact player for the secondary in every single game he's played in, as he's been great in the run department, but also in coverage. He has been one of the best coverage corners since he became a starter. And with Isaiah Rodgers, Quinion Mitchell, Reed Blankenship, and now Cooper DeJean, this is going to be a very good Eagles secondary for years to come, and it's just looking so much different than it has in the past couple of years, where it's been somewhat disappointing at times. The New England Patriots aren't a good team, but somebody they're getting really productive play out of is going to be Keion White, the year 2 man out of Georgia Tech, as Keion White has improved a lot on his rookie season, especially in the pass rush department, and he is looking like he's going to be a franchise edge defender for this team. He's got 5 sacks in 13 games. He's still just 25 years old as an edge rusher, and I think the Patriots struck gold with the 46th overall pick in the 2023 draft. So for Buffalo, I struggled between 2 players. I almost talked about Von Miller, kind of similar to what I talked about with Kevin Byard in the Chicago Bears earlier, that his career may be over, but he has been productive at times this year in limited snaps for the Buffalo Bills. But I'm actually going to talk about Damar Hamlin. Yeah, Damar Hamlin, we all know what happened to him last year. People thought he was just going to be maybe this 3rd string or bench safety, and maybe the Bills were just playing him just to be nice to him. But no, he has been a productive safety for this team as their full-time starter this year. Hamlin has been their starter in all 12 of their games. He has 2 interceptions. He has been a solid coverage safety, and he's a good run defender as well. And I'm not saying he's an elite safety by any means. I don't think he's a top 10 or top 21, but top 40, yeah, I would say so overall. And I think that's just amazing for what he was as a 6th round pick in the 2021 draft and everything that happened to him 2 years ago. The Miami Dolphins definitely could have been a lot better this year, but they lost Tua for a decent amount of time. But somebody that's just been a great skill position player for them, Jonnu Smith. Yeah, he's been one of their more reliable receiving targets this year. Jonnu Smith is still just 29 years old, and I feel like the Dolphins found a great tight end for Tua in the future. 58 catches this year, 648 yards, and 4 touchdowns, but he has been a monster over his last 3 weeks. 3 weeks ago against the Rams, he had 6 catches for 101 yards and 2 touchdowns. The next week against New England, 9 catches for 87 yards and a touchdown. And this past week against the Green Bay Packers on Thanksgiving, although they did lose, he had 11 targets, 10 catches, and 113 yards. And he's under control for next year as well. I think the Dolphins have to keep him around and continue to feed him the ball on the offensive side of the field. For the New York Jets, I genuinely had no idea who to pick. Maybe go with Isaiah Oliver or Tony Adams in the secondary. I just ended up going with John Simpson, their interior offensive lineman, because Simpson has not really been graded out well by PFF for most of his career. He was a 4th round pick in 2020. He bounced around in Las Vegas and Baltimore, and I think has been a very productive player for the Jets this year. He has by far his highest PFF grade, 83 in the run block, 75 in the pass block, and 81 grade overall, which is 6 out of 73 qualified offensive guards. And he's under team control for next year as well. The Jets have to keep him around. He's going to be 28 next year, in a year that Aaron Rodgers has been disappointing, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams, just a lot of players on the Jets team. John Simpson looks like he was a silver lining in that 2024 offseason. The Saints have had a plethora of injuries this year. They definitely need to enter into somewhat of a rebuild sooner than later. But I think as an edge rusher, Carl Granderson has been another productive player for them. And this isn't anything new to Saints fans. He has been good over the last few years in New Orleans, but I think just seeing another productive year from Granderson is proving the Saints, and I think more the national audience, that he was worth that 4-year, $52 million extension he got not too long ago. I think you got to be pleased for what Chuba Hubbard has been doing for the Carolina Panthers this year. They've had their ups and downs. They had a heartbreaking loss against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, one of the best games of Bryce Young's career, but Chuba Hubbard has been a great running back for them. A lot of people thought Jonathan Brooks was going to eventually take his job. No, they extended Hubbard. They gave Hubbard a 4-year, $33 million contract extension. Hubbard, so far this year through 12 games, has 919 rushing yards, 7 touchdowns, and he's currently 6th in the NFL in rushing yards as a whole. He's got more rushing yards this year than Alvin Kamara, Bijan Robinson, Najee Harris, Aaron Jones, James Conner, who've all played the same amount of games as Chuba. And the Panthers just need good skill position players, and they found one in Hubbard. We're going to talk about another skill position player for the Atlanta Falcons. No, we're not talking about Kirk Cousins, who I think has been disappointing as of late. We're not talking about Bijan Robinson. We're not talking about Drake London or Kyle Pitts. We're talking about Darnell Mooney. Mooney has arguably been the best skill position player for the Atlanta Falcons this year, which is just crazy to say. He's appeared in all 12 games for them. He has 87 targets, 51 receptions, 731 yards in the air, and 5 touchdowns. And I'm sure you could say that Drake London or Bijan Robinson have been better than Darnell Mooney overall, but just the fact that Darnell Mooney is in those conversations means he's exceeding expectations for what he was during those final years in Chicago. I was struggling with who I wanted to pick for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because I was so close to going with Cade Otton, but I'm actually going to talk about their rookie running back who they took in the 4th round, Bucky Irving, who has just been so much fun to watch this season. And it didn't take long for us to realize that Bucky is so much better as a pure running back than Rachaad White. And since Bucky became the full-on starter over the last 7 games, 89 carries, 485 yards, 5.45 yards per attempt. He's also got 27 catches for over 200 yards in that span, 5 rushing touchdowns. And I think with Mike Evans getting up there in age, Chris Godwin potentially leaving in free agency, they do have Kate Allen as the tight end. I want to give him some props. Bucky Irving looks like he's going to be the franchise running back behind Baker Mayfield. Let's stay on the topic of running backs. Let's talk about Joe Mixon with the Houston Texans. He went for a 7th round pick in the offseason. And I don't know where this Houston Texans offense would be without him. He hasn't been an elite running back this year, but he's been a very good one. He's currently 8th in the NFL in rushing yards, and he's only appeared in 10 games. So he's missed some time, but he has more rushing yards than Bijan, Pollard, Najee Harris, and Aaron Jones behind him, who have played 2 more full games than Joe Mixon. He's got 205 carries, 887 yards, and 11 touchdowns in his age 28 season. And for a 7th round pick, this looks like one of the best low-cost moves from last offseason. The Tennessee Titans, this team has been somewhat disappointing on the offensive side of the field. They've gotten inconsistent play out of Will Levis, Calvin Ridley. I think Tony Pollard has been good, and I almost went with him, but I'm going to go with Jack Gibbons, their linebacker, who was an undrafted player in that 2022 draft out of Minnesota. And this Titans defense this year has been feisty. It has been good at times, and I think Gibbons has been one of the best players from that unit. He's appeared in 10 games. He's got 44 total tackles, and he's only started 5 games as well, but he has been all over the field when he plays, and he's been super versatile. He's shown up in special teams a ton as well. He's currently the 4th ranked linebacker in terms of a PFF grade. He's got an 83. He's got a 79 grade in the run defense department, 65 in pass rush, and 75 in coverage, and he just turned 26 years old. This year, we've come to learn that their new wide receiver 1 isn't going to be Christian Kirk. It's not going to be Gabe Davis by any means. It's going to be Brian Thomas Jr., their 1st round pick from the 2024 NFL draft. And I think Thomas just being in those discussions with Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors, and we talked about before Vlad McConkey and Brock Bowers, has shown that Jacksonville hit on a wide receiver draft pick. Through 12 games, he started 11 of them, 46 catches, 765 yards across 73 targets, 6 touchdowns in the air. And with this team just being an absolute mess this season, it's nice to see that they got a stud from LSU in Brian Thomas Jr. that could be Trevor Lawrence's wide receiver 1 for the next decade. And lastly, we're going to talk about the Indianapolis Colts. We're going to talk about another receiver, and that is going to be someone that I think has emerged as their best receiver as well. And that's going to be Josh Downs, the former Tar Heel. Downs was the 79th overall pick in the 2023 NFL draft, and it feels like last year he was just always open. And this year, it just feels like he's just so much better than Michael Pittman at times. Through 10 games, he's got 53 receptions, 594 yards across 78 targets. He's only started 6 out of those 10 games as well. But you can also give some love to Will Fries, who I think has completely turned his career around as a former 7th round pick. And this looks like a stud for Chris Ballard and the Indianapolis Colts draft department. So that is going to be for me. I hope you guys did enjoy. Like I said in the beginning of the video, let me know your favorite team's most surprising player this year. Did I get your favorite team right or wrong? Please let me know down below. Hit that like button if you guys did enjoy, and subscribe for more NFL content. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.